£6,500. That is how much state pension a retired nurse from Barnsley is losing every single year because she has 11 gaps in her national insurance record that she didn't know existed until February 2026. Her name is Janet Rowley. She is 68 years old. She currently receives £134.72 per week instead of the full £241.30, a shortfall of £106.58 per week, which across 12 months comes to £5,542. With the triple lock pushing that figure higher each April, the cumulative loss over a 20-year retirement will exceed £130,000. The reason? 11 tax years between 2006 and 2017, where Janet either worked part-time below the lower earnings limit, took unpaid leave to care for her mother, or simply wasn't registered for national insurance credits she was entitled to claim for free. The fix would have cost her roughly £10,500 in voluntary Class 3 contributions. The return on that payment, spread across an average retirement, would have been more than 12 to 1. But Janet missed the extended deadline. The window to fill national insurance gaps, stretching back to April 2006, closed on April 5, 2025 for most people, with a callback concession extending the opportunity for those who registered before that date. If you are one of the thousands still inside that window, or if you have gaps from the last 6 years that remain open under the normal rules, you have until April 5, 2026 to fill gaps for the 2019/20 tax year and everything after it. Once that date passes, the 2019/20 year disappears permanently. You cannot buy it back. You cannot appeal. And every qualifying year, you lose costs you up to £358 in annual state pension, guaranteed, index-linked, payable for life. The mechanism is not complicated. The new state pension, introduced on April 6, 2016, requires 35 qualifying years of national insurance contributions to pay the full rate of £241.30 per week. That is £12,547.60 per year. For every qualifying year below 35, your pension drops by roughly 1/35. That works out to £6.89 per week per missing year, or £358.28 per year. 10 qualifying years is the minimum needed to receive anything at all. Below 10, you get nothing, not a reduced payment, not a partial rate. 0. The threshold is binary, and here is your first actionable step. Log in to gov.uk right now and search Check Your State Pension Forecast. That tool will tell you how many qualifying years you have, how many you still need, and whether your current trajectory puts you on course for the full amount. If it doesn't, and for roughly 38% of people approaching state pension age, it doesn't, you need to find out which years are missing and how much it costs to fill them, because the price is absurdly low relative to the return. A single qualifying year of Class 3 voluntary national insurance costs £956.80 for the 2026/27 tax year. That buys you £358 per year in additional state pension, payable from the day you reach state pension age until the day you die. If you live for just 3 years after qualifying, you break even. The average British woman lives roughly 20 years past state pension age. The average man, approximately 17. That means a single year purchased for £956.80 could return between £6,000 and £7,160 in pension income before accounting for annual triple lock increases. No savings account, no ISA, no gilt offers that ratio. HMRC expects you to know this. They will not write to you about it. They will not call you. The Future Pension Centre, 0800731 0175, exists for people below state pension age to check their record and get a personalized calculation. The Pension Service, 0800731 0469 SEC, covers those already drawing their pension. Both lines are open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But neither line will proactively contact you to say your record has gaps. Neither will suggest you buy missing years. You have to ask. And most people don't, because they assume the system works automatically. It does not. I'll come back to exactly what these helplines can and cannot tell you, because there is a critical limitation in the advice they give that costs pensioners thousands, and almost nobody flags it. Now here is what HMRC expects versus what you should actually do. HMRC's published guidance on gov.uk says you can pay voluntary contributions to fill gaps in your national insurance record going back 6 years. Under normal rules in the 2026/27 tax year, that means you can fill gaps as far back as 2020/21. The deadline to fill the 2019/20 year is April 5, 2026, after which it closes forever. The deadline for 2020/21 is April 5, 2027. Each April, one more year falls off the back of the queue. What you should actually do is treat this not as a rolling 6-year window, but as an annual countdown. Every April, you permanently lose the ability to buy one more year of your pension record. Once gone, no amount of money, no appeal, no hardship claim can bring it back. The extended transition period, which allowed people to fill gaps all the way back to April 2006, was a one-time concession linked to the introduction of the new state pension in 2016. Originally set to expire in April 2023, it was extended to April 5, 2025, after public pressure and the intervention of former Pensions Minister Sir Steve Webb. A last-minute callback concession in March 2025 meant that anyone who submitted a request to the DWP before April 5, 2025, would not be penalized if the system couldn't process their payment in time. Those callbacks were promised within 8 weeks, but many took considerably longer. Some people who registered in March 2025 were still receiving their callback conversations in late 2025 and into early 2026. For those individuals, the window effectively extended beyond the headline deadline. If you submitted a callback request and have not yet completed your payment, you still have the opportunity to pay, but you should treat this as a matter of urgency, not a rolling option. Douglas Vance, 72, from Shrewsbury, submitted his callback on March 28, 2025. He received the return call on September 11, 2025, nearly 6 months later. The DWP advisor confirmed he had 7 missing years between 2006 and 2013, each of which would add approximately £358 per year to his state pension. The total cost to fill all 7 was £6,697.60, charged at the 2022/23 rate of £956.80 per year as promised under the transitional pricing arrangement. Douglas paid on October 3, 2025. His state pension, which had been £158.40 per week, rose to £206.63 per week, an increase of £48.23 per week, or £2,507.96 per year. Over his projected remaining lifetime of 15 years, that single payment of £6,697.60 will generate approximately £37,619 in additional pension income. He cleared the cost in under 3 years. I'd genuinely like to know, have you checked your national insurance record online? Because in comments on earlier videos, viewer after viewer described logging in for the first time and discovering 3, 5, even 8 years they didn't know were missing. Some were years spent caring for elderly parents where credits were available but never claimed. Others were years abroad or years of self-employment where Class 2 contributions fell through the cracks. The record is there, waiting, but it won't send you an alert. There is a second category of gap that catches pensioners more often than full missing years, and it is far cheaper to fix. Partial years. A partial year is a tax year where you paid some national insurance but not enough to qualify. Perhaps you worked for 30 weeks but needed 39. Perhaps your earnings dipped below the lower earnings limit in a handful of pay periods. On your NI record, these show as year is not full, with a specific shortfall amount listed under the details. Margaret Neville, 63, from Yeovil, found she had 4 partial years. In 2 of them, she was just 2 weeks short. The cost to complete each of those years was £36.80, 2 weeks at £18.40. For less than £74, she added 2 full qualifying years to her record. Each year is worth up to £358 annually in pension. That is a return of approximately £7,160 over a 20-year retirement for an outlay of £74. Some tax commentators have called this the single best financial return available to any British citizen, a claim that is difficult to dispute when the arithmetic is this stark. What you should actually do is look at every partial year in your record and check the cost to complete it. Some years can be turned into qualifying years for as little as £15 to £20. Others will cost the full £956.80. The cheap ones, anything under £200, are almost always worth buying if your forecast shows you need more qualifying years. The expensive ones require the same calculation. Will you live long enough to recoup £956.80 at £358 per year? At roughly 2.7 years to break even, the answer is yes for the vast majority of people. Everything I've covered so far, the 6-year window, the transition deadline, the partial year trick, rests on one assumption: that buying more national insurance years will actually increase your state pension. And for most people it will, but not for everyone. There is a catch that changes the calculation entirely. If any of what I've explained so far made you stop and reconsider your own record, pressing the like button takes 2 seconds, and it signals the algorithm to push this in front of other pensioners before the April 2026 deadline passes. That matters more than you might think. Now, the catch, and it involves something called contracting out. Between the late 1970s and April 2016, millions of workers were contracted out of the additional state pension, known at various times as SERPs, and later the state second pension. Contracting out meant that either you or your employer redirected part of your national insurance contributions into a private pension instead of the state system. The trade-off was lower NI payments in exchange for a private pension pot. When the new state pension launched in 2016, everyone's record was converted to the new system. But people who had been contracted out received a deduction, called a contracted out pension equivalent, or COPE, which reduced their starting amount. Here is why this matters for buying missing years. If you were contracted out for a significant portion of your career, your forecast may show that you need more than 35 qualifying years to reach the full £241.30. Some people need 40 or even 44 years to overcome the COPE deduction. That changes the value calculation dramatically. A person with a straightforward record who buys 1 year gets £358 added to their annual pension. A person with heavy contracting out deductions who buys 1 year might get less, sometimes significantly less, because the additional year only partially offsets the COPE adjustment. Raymond Holt, 66, from Wolverhampton, paid £956.80 for 1 missing year, expecting a £358 annual increase. When his forecast updated, his pension rose by just £127 per year. The remaining £231 was absorbed by his COPE deduction. His break-even point stretched from 2.7 years to 7.5 years. Still worthwhile. Pension professionals would largely agree on that, but a very different proposition from the headline figure. This is precisely where the Future Pension Centre helpline falls short. The advisors will tell you how many qualifying years you have and whether buying more will increase your pension. They will not, however, advise you on whether buying years is the best use of your money compared to other options. They will not factor in pension credit. They will not assess your total retirement income picture. If the state pension is likely to be your only income and your total falls below £218.15 per week, the pension credit threshold for a single person buying extra NI years could actually push you above the pension credit threshold while gaining you less in pension than you lose in means-tested benefits. I know this sounds overwhelming. NI records, partial years, COPE deductions, pension credit interactions. None of it was designed to be intuitive, but the part that matters to you right now, this month, is simpler than it sounds, and I'll strip it down to exactly what you need to do in a moment. Most people tune out when national insurance jargon comes up. Don't. The next 90 seconds could be the difference between getting the full state pension and losing thousands of pounds every year for the rest of your life. If your forecast shows you're on track for the full £241.30 per week, you probably don't need to buy anything, even if you have gaps. That's because the forecast assumes you'll keep contributing until state pension age. Missing years only matter if they result in a shortfall below the maximum. Buying years when you're already projected to hit the full amount is wasted money. If your forecast shows less than the full amount and you have fillable gaps, you need a personalized calculation from the Future Pension Center or Pension Service. Do not pay without calling first. It is possible, and HMRC acknowledges this, to pay to fill a gap and see no increase in your pension whatsoever. This happens most often with contracted out years. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who takes their pension seriously enough to act on information rather than ignore it. Subscribing means you'll see the follow-up video I'm releasing on how the frozen personal allowance is about to collide with the triple-locked state pension, and why that collision will change the tax position of every pensioner watching this video within 3 years. Those two subjects are more connected than most people realize. Sylvia Barton, 70, from Canterbury, drew the old basic state pension of £169.50 per week. She assumed she couldn't benefit from voluntary contributions because she was already past state pension age. She was wrong. Pensioners who are already drawing their pension can still buy missing years under the normal 6-year rule. When Sylvia called the Pension Service in November 2025, she discovered 3 missing years from 2019/20, 2020/21, and 2021/22. She paid £2,778, 3 years at the applicable rates. The Pension Service triggered a benefit review, and her pension was backdated to the date of payment. Her weekly pension increased by £20.67, approximately £1,074.84 per year. The backdating meant she didn't lose a single week of the increase. There is one more group this applies to, and they are the people most likely to miss out entirely. Expats. British citizens living abroad can pay voluntary Class 2 or Class 3 contributions to maintain their NI record, depending on their circumstances. Class 2 contributions. Available if you worked in the UK immediately before leaving and had at least 3 prior years of UK residence or contributions. Cost just £3.65 per week, or approximately £189.80 per year. That is less than 1/5 the cost of Class 3. The pension benefit is the same, up to £358 per year per qualifying year. From April 6, 2026, new applicants for Class 2 contributions while abroad must have lived in the UK for at least 3 consecutive years and have worked in the UK immediately before departure. Existing payers are not affected, but new applicants face tighter eligibility under updated HMRC guidance. If you live overseas and haven't yet applied for Class 2 status, you face a narrowing window. Here is what nobody puts together. The 6-year rolling window, the contracting out deduction, the pension credit interaction, and the Class 2 expatriate route are not 4 separate issues. They are four moving parts of a single machine. Your state pension entitlement, and changing one affects the others. Fill too many gaps without checking COPE and you overpay. Fill none and you lose £358 per year per missing year for life. Fill gaps that push you above the pension credit threshold and you may trade £358 in pension for £218 in lost benefits. Buy Class 3 when you qualified for Class 2 and you pay 5 times more than necessary. The system was not built to make this easy. It was built across 40 years of legislation: National Insurance Act 1946, Pensions Act 2014, Social Security Contributions and Benefits Act 1992, each layer adding complexity without removing the last. Your pension is trapped inside that machinery, and the only way to extract its full value is to understand which levers to pull and when. Monday morning, here is what you do. Log into gov.uk and check your national insurance record. Write down every year marked as not full. Count the gaps. Tuesday, run your state pension forecast using the gov.uk calculator. Note whether it shows the full £241.30 or a lower figure. Note how many more qualifying years it says you need. Wednesday, call the Future Pension Centre on 08007310175 if you're below state pension age, or the Pension Service on 08007310469 if you're already claiming. Ask them specifically, if I buy year X, how much will my weekly pension increase? Get a number, not a generalization, a number. Thursday, check whether you were contracted out. Your forecast will mention it, or you can ask during the call. If you were, the value of buying additional years may be reduced, and you need the exact figure before paying. Friday, if the numbers work, call HMRC on 03 002 003 500 to get your 18-digit payment reference and make the payment by bank transfer. Janet Rowley in Barnsley missed the extended deadline by 3 weeks. She did not submit a callback request before April 5, 2025, because she did not know the deadline existed. Her 11 missing years between 2006 and 2017 are now permanently closed. Under the normal 6-year rule, she can still fill gaps from 2020/21 onwards, provided she acts before each April deadline removes the oldest available year. In January 2026, she called the Pension Service and bought 2 years, 2019/20 and 2020/21 DARS, for £1,862.40. Her pension rose by £13.78 per week, not the £106.58 she would have gained from filling all 11 years, but £716.56 per year she would otherwise have lost. Over 15 years, that payment returns approximately £10,748. She plans to buy 1 more year this autumn. She told a viewer in the comments, and I'm paraphrasing, that her only regret was not checking her record 10 years earlier. In the next video, I'm covering the state pension triple lock collision, the moment the full new state pension crosses above the personal allowance for the first time, and what that means for every pensioner's tax bill, savings interest, and marriage allowance. If you thought missing NI years were expensive, wait until you see what a frozen personal allowance does to a pension that rises every April. That video drops next week. Every year you don't check costs you a year you can't buy back.